to Momentum in Real Estate, your guide to success in the dynamic world of real estate. I'm Corey Wolf.
And I'm Kristen James. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, we're here to help you reach new heights.
Success in real estate comes from learning, growing, and serving others.
Join us as we dive into strategies for lead generation, marketing, market trends, and client relationships.
Get ready to ignite your momentum and achieve your goals in real estate.
Let's dive in and unlock your full potential.
This is Momentum in Real Estate.
Well, meet Athena Brownson, a Colorado native and seasoned realtor with an unmatched passion for helping clients turn houses into dream homes. With a background in interior design, Athena has a knack for uncovering the hidden potential in every property, making the buying and selling process seamless and inspiring. Her commitment to integrity, loyalty, and responsiveness sets her apart, whether she's navigating Denver Metro, Boulder, Breckenridge, or beyond. When Athena isn't working her magic in real estate, you'll find her treasure hunting at estate sales, enjoying concerts, or relaxing at home with her adorable pups. Welcome to the podcast, Athena.
You know, that was such a great intro. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Athena. So share with us your real estate story in your own words.
Absolutely. So I don't know if anyone really grows up saying, I'm going to be a realtor when I grow up. And that certainly was not the case for me. I grew up in a small mountain community, as you mentioned, Breckenridge, Colorado, where I was one-sided. I saw skiing as my life, and there was nothing else besides that. So I was a professional skier in my past life. I like to say I skied all over the globe. And honestly, skiing was what instilled in me, I believe, the competitiveness and work ethic that are necessary to thrive in real estate. I just had no idea that that was what it was preparing me for. So after a series of injuries over, a 12-year career, I think I had like 16 surgeries in that period. I decided at the ripe age of like 22, almost 23, to retire from skiing. And I finished out college. I was actually an art history and architecture major and wanted to go into interior design. My dad was a developer and a builder in Breckenridge, and my mom was an interior designer for his projects. That's another note, that you never really think you're going to end up like your parents, and you always end up like your parents. And I'm actually extremely grateful for that, because they, looking back, they made some pretty beautiful things, and it rubbed off a little bit. And I've had the pleasure of working with them later in life. But again, I never thought I'd end up in real estate. So I found myself working in the interior design world, definitely in love with design. I mean, you can see my background. That's my wall. I love designing things. It makes me extremely happy. But I found that having my roots as a competitive skier, which is a one-man sport, I wanted to be my own boss, and I really wanted to have a career in which my output was what my input was. So if I was working really hard, I would do well. And there wasn't necessarily a ceiling on how well I could do, because I was an entrepreneur and I could be my own boss. So I had expressed that to a dear friend of mine over dinner one night, and she recommended, she was in real estate. She said, why haven't you ever considered real estate? She kind of was shaking her head at me. And I kind of shook my head back, like, why would I? I don't know why. I've never even considered it. She's like, Athena, you love houses. You love designing homes, clearly. You're a people person, you're outgoing. You love to chat. You love people and building relationships. Like, why not consider this? And I had always had this used car salesman view of real estate, honestly. They were a dime a dozen in Breckenridge. Now I look at all of the agents that I thought that about in Breckenridge, and I'm like, you guys are amazing, first of all. But I met with her boss a couple days later. He was probably one of the most incredible humans I've ever met. And I immediately quit my job in interior design and started real estate school. And that was about a decade ago. I don't know where time went.
Wow. That is remarkable. Well, and what's cool is because there's like your background is in this kind of adjacent field, you're able to draw on that experience and bring that into your real estate work, which
It's so
is
special.
really cool.
I love being
Versus
able.
like starting out as like a computer programmer and then you're all of a sudden in real estate, or it feels like a much bigger
Totally.
departure.
And it is an interesting world that we work in. It's because there are all walks of life. It's like people came from so many different backgrounds to end up in the real estate industry, and it's fun to see where people came from. I definitely notice there's a tendency for a lot of athletes or former athletes, I should say. But, it's been the best decision I ever made, and being able to help people visualize what spaces can look like and see the
Mm,
potential in spaces, or
yeah.
help them, really transform and give them ideas, is something that brings me so much joy. And it really is from that design background. So it's something I'm eternally grateful for.
I
I
have to
love
ask, do
that.
you still ski for fun?
I wish I could say yes. I unfortunately got Lyme disease about 8.5 years ago.
Oh
And it
God.
just completely, I mean, it pretty much took my body and
Yes.
just every autoimmune disease you can imagine, completely
Yes.
wiped me out. So I went from being a high performing athlete to barely being able to get out of bed within like a couple of years of it themselves. So one day
Wow.
I'll get back out there for sure, but right now I'm in my healing phase.
Oh my goodness. Is your like immune system more regulated now, or are you still like,
I do four plasma transfusions a month, and I'm on a 1.5 year long treatment protocol right now to try and just kill the Lyme and co-infections that it came with. And
uh,
the plasma transfusions kind of keep my autoimmune symptoms at, I would say, at bay, but it's like it keeps me so I can at least stay, like, get out of bed.
oh
Because
gosh, yeah,
otherwise I
that is
wouldn't. But
uh
it's having a job that I love that it keeps me getting out of bed. That's what keeps me going. It's like,
wow.
I get to help people with one of the most important transitions, whether it's buying or selling or investing in their lives. And that's, honestly, it brings me so much joy that it's what gets me up and excited every day. So
Wow.
I always say I'm the luckiest sick person in the universe.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's a contradiction of terms, but it's true.
Wow. Well, Athena, you've been in the industry, what, over a decade?
Just about a decade, yeah.
Yeah. So give us kind of a 30-second like summary of your brokerage experience. Like who are you with now? Where have you been? Have you been with the same place the whole time?
Absolutely. So I started out with, as I mentioned, I had lunch with John Stegner, who was the owner of the first brokerage I worked with, and he's who convinced me that I would be good in real estate. And he owned a small local brokerage, and I started there. I did my first 5 years there, and I honestly attribute my success to being able to have followed him. And I watched every move he made for about a year. And I think that's one of the greatest pieces of advice I have for young agents, because you get out of real estate school really not knowing much. So it's find someone, follow every move they make, listen to their phone calls. So that's what I did. I followed him. I watched everything he did. I worked with them for about 5 years. And then Compass approached me 5 years ago when they were opening a Denver office. And I never thought in a million years that I would leave this brokerage, but it just felt like the next opportunity for growth. And it felt, culture to me in a brokerage is critical. So I really wanted to make sure that it was a culture fit like my old brokerage, and couldn't be happier. I mean, Compass has done a really great job of, even while expanding, focusing on maintaining a very relational culture within the offices. And I'm still dear friends, of course, with all of my last brokerage. I mean, they were instrumental in my success.
Yes, it's all about the collaboration, right? Okay,
100%.
I feel like we don't have enough time to even cover everything that you know, but I really want to dig into, you mentioned your dad was a builder growing up. Mention like your process with property development and kind of like opportunities that have come out of that, and maybe giving our listeners some opportunities to think about for themselves too.
Absolutely. So I grew up watching my dad develop properties and never thought that it was something that would be even attainable to me, even when I started real estate, because especially in the Denver market, finding, A, land is hard to come by, and B, finding land that or scrapes where the margins, the numbers make sense is also extremely difficult. But I found that I actually knocked on doors for years to find different flip opportunities for my clients. And I got to the point where I had done enough acquired and helped buy, design, and sell enough flips with clients that I approached my dad as with my business jacket on, not my daughter jacket, and proposed to him that we develop together and that we start, moving his business, which was slowing down in the mountains just because Breckenridge is a small area and there literally isn't any land left. And I said, you know what? Give us a chance. Like, let's try this in Denver. And was lucky enough that he decided to partner with me. He also let me take the reins, which I can tell you, I learned so many lessons by failing and by falling on my face. And I think the most important nugget that I have is that anyone can, like, this is an attainable process for anyone, but teamwork makes the dream work. Like, it is all about choosing the right team. And when I say team, I'm looking at who your builder is and what's their track record. Have you toured their properties? Do you know anyone that's worked with them previously? Have you looked them up on the Better Business Bureau? Like, really intimately knowing who the contractor is that you're hiring, because unfortunately there's a lot of bad ones out there, and you want to know that your team has been able to navigate working with the city successfully before, because especially in Denver, working with the Denver permitting office, building permit is extremely slow and extremely difficult. Like, they are very stringent about redlining just about everything you could imagine, and it almost seems like they make up new rules every day. But you want to make sure that you are working with someone that knows how to have good communication with the building department. That goes for your architect too. So, really taking the time to build out the team around you that has the experience that you might not have yet. Because these are the people that you're going to be leaning on and relying on to really get the job to fruition. And I definitely failed the first time. The architect that I hired initially just wasn't as familiar with the new Denver building codes. Was a dear friend, and I think that's where I went wrong, is just leaning too much on the friendship, but not having necessarily the experience of working with a really, really difficult city. So I definitely struggled with that period. But one thing that saved us during these learning experiences, I'll say, that I had, was that the property that I had purchased or acquired, first of all, it was off market. So that was wonderful because we were saving one side of broker fees, and also generally we were able to negotiate a really, really great deal and still keep the tenants that were renting the house in the house. So those tenants, while we were going through all of the plans and permitting, which at the time we were just coming out of the pandemic, it was taking about 12 to 18 months to get a set of plans approved in Denver, just because they were so understaffed. So understanding what your timeline is going to be and then adding on some, making sure you're really building in cushion both in budget and timeline is critical. And having those tenants in place that were keeping basically keeping our carrying costs paid for was an absolute godsend and is something that I recommend to my clients all the time. It's like if you're going to be building, if you're going to be developing, try and find a property that is in good condition so that it's habitable and you can rent it out while you're going through that process.
Hmm. So, what percentage of your business is focused on development? Or do you kind of have a mix of, you're helping Joe
Yeah.
Schmo sell his or her house, you're helping buyers find property? Like, give us a sense of kind of the mix of your business.
Definitely. So I would say, my heart is in real estate in so many ways. Like I get so excited about all of the opportunities. Right now, I would say my business is about 60% listings, maybe 35% buyers, and then usually I'm doing like one big development project at a time. So right now we're actually 2 weeks away from getting our CO on the biggest property we've developed down here. And I couldn't be more excited to share it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's been so fun working with this builder and architect. I found my team and it feels so good. Like I cannot wait to work with them for decades to come. And I hope to do bigger projects and not just for my family, but helping others with their development projects and really being able to deliver that curated experience that is everything from acquiring the property, the land, the scrape, whatever it may be, help being able to assist with the design phase because I'm working with buyers, I'm walking properties, I know what people are looking for. So being able to use that knowledge and help my clients, and I definitely used to work with a lot more investors than I do now in terms of fix and flipping. Now I tend to I'm going after bigger development projects. So working on multifamily townhomes, for instance, and triplexes and a little bit larger scale opportunities. But I would say my heart is equally split amongst all of it. So I just get excited by any opportunity.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to ask a sort of selfish question, but I'm sure our listeners have this question too. I have a piece of land that's about to go on the market, and I think we got hit by Hurricane Helene. It was really rough, but this house has a tree on it. So there's a house on the piece of land, and they just want to sell it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the way it's zoned, and I know that zoning's all different across the country, but the way that it's zoned, you can put 6 units on it, but it's got a structure in the middle of it. So I have builder contacts, but not in the sense of like, hey, I want you to purchase this, let's build and let me list,
Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you have for somebody like me that could kind of tackle that and potentially make it a great opportunity?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would do, honestly, is go meet with the building department. Find out exactly what can be done. Make sure that structure can be removed. Make sure that you're going to be able to basically, you want a guarantee of, as much of a guarantee as you can that yes, this is zoned for 6 units, but is the density there? Are you going to allow me to build 6 units, even though the zoning is there? Are there any
Right.
stipulations? What are the setbacks that I need to be aware of? So the best thing that I used to be, you know, very intimidated by going and sitting down with the city and just saying, hey, I don't know what I don't know. But the best thing we can do is that is part of your team that you're building. So go sit down with the city, find out exactly what it is that you're able to do with that plot, and then you know what you're selling. So once you have basically that idea that you can paint the picture of, then you really want to start meeting with, my recommendation would be to meet with builders that you have, that are referred to you, from people you trust, and like, know, and trust, I guess we would say. And make sure that you're talking and interviewing builders and really understanding what their experience is in the area, how well they've navigated the city in the past, and then understanding what those building costs are going to be. So getting an idea of what your hard costs are going to be, which is like your materials, labor, everything that pretty much happens after the structure starts to get built, and your soft costs. So, the price, how much that land is worth, how much you're basically going to be able to sell the land for, knowing that you're going to be able to build these 6 structures on it. So really being able to put together like a loose budget with a builder that you really trust and getting a timeline from them so you have all of the tools that you need to create, even like sit down with an architect and start getting the basics of some ideas that you could put together. Even, you definitely don't need to deliver blueprints like that. That's something that some investors and developers will do, is to go through and get something, but that's expensive. That's probably not the route you want to go. But you can go through getting some basic renderings of an idea of what can be on the land based on what you've learned from the city and based on what makes sense cost wise with a builder. So it really is going to be putting that team together so you can understand the highest and best use of the land, and then working backwards from that highest and best use of how are we going to put together, all of our costs so that it makes sense in the end. And then projecting, obviously right now it's a little bit difficult to project what things are going to sell for in 2 years from now. I think the last couple of years have taught us that whatever we think we know about the market, we don't really. It's kind of been a little bit of a crapshoot. But you want to look at, what the annual appreciation in that neighborhood in that area has been over the last 10, 20, 30 years. Get an average annual appreciation and basically extrapolate that into, okay, if I'm selling these units, and they would currently be worth X, and I'm going to make it, say the builder says it's going to take 2 years to get to completion. What are they going to be worth in 2 years? And then you have to take that valuation into account so that you're really showing what the profit margin is. And you always want to I always like to be very conservative with my numbers. Like you would much rather be way under budget than way over budget. And a lot of builders will promise you the dream and then come in way over budget. And that's why you want to interview very strategically, but really understanding every step of what it's going to take to get the highest and best use out of that land. And again, teamwork makes the dream work. Meet with a building department, meet with different builders, talk to different architects. If you can get some renderings put together and put together, a pro forma basically of what your costs are going to be versus what you're going to be able to sell them for and what the profit margin is. That profit margin is really what you're going to be selling to an investor or a developer. So that would be my recommendation. Is it a simple one? No, but it will be a rewarding one because every step of the way you learn so much more than you could ever imagine. I mean, it really is one of those, it's like CE credits, but in real life.
That's so good. Thank you so much.
Oh, I
I
hope that's
know. I love
helpful.
that. I
I do
might
too.
schedule a private conversation with you
I'm
because I
all
have some
about it.
things in the works that I'm like, oh, that's really interesting to think about that.
And it's all things that it's just been trial and error. And
Yeah.
luckily I do have good mentorship and coaching is a huge part of my life and business, I think
Yeah.
because of my athletic background. So
Yeah.
making sure you have the right mentors and just people to call and pick their brains, because that is the most valuable insight you're going to get. Just
Mhm.
finding people, I can't tell you how many times I've called agents that are doing projects that I'm excited to see. And I'm just like, can I take you out for coffee and pick your brain? And yes, you'll get some that want nothing to do with it. But for the most part, people are pretty excited to share what they've learned and how they can help. So it's a really fun way to
Mm,
build community and relationship and get some really great contacts. Like, who are you using for a
absolutely.
builder? Who's your architect? Do you have any recommendations about working with the city? But just scheduling a meeting with the building department, I think, is a great first step.
That's really great. Yeah. I mean, to your point, just the relationship building and growing a network of contacts. And Corey is really good at that. I know that because I know her. But
Yay.
yeah, that's like
I can tell.
that will help you just regardless of where this goes with this particular property. That will
I
that
always say it's like that, this isn't just one, I don't even like to say transaction, but it isn't just one transaction. It's like this is a depth of knowledge that you're gaining to be able to assist so many more clients in the future. And those relationships that you're building along the way are going to become invaluable. I mean, the number of times that my builder has saved my clients from just anything you could, everything that does happen in real estate, because homes are not perfect.
Mhm.
They're built by
Right.
humans. So you want to make sure that you have your go-tos for everything as a realtor. And when you put
Mhm.
that developer or flipper hat on and kind of work more in that sphere, it really helps you curate your list of vendors and your go-tos. And that is so valuable for your clients that every piece of insight and every relationship that you're building, even though it's may seem like it's a lot of work for one transaction, it's like, no, these are going to be pieces of insight and information that you use for the rest of your career.
For sure, without a
It's so
doubt.
fun. It's so fun.
So, how do you go about helping your clients, navigate the market? How do you help inform? How do you help influence their decisions? Obviously, we can't make decisions for people. That's not our job. But
Totally.
how do you approach that in your business?
Absolutely. So I am such a big education to me is one of the most important things we can do for our clients. So ensuring that we are staying on top of absolutely we have such access to information in this day and age. It's such a blessing. And we need to remember to utilize it. And that means going to as many classes as we can, knowing the statistics of our market like the back of our hand. Knowing every step of the process, what can go wrong, what will go wrong, what road bumps are going to, because every real estate transaction, like as much as we would love it to just be smooth and easy, there's always going to be different road bumps. And we want to set the expectation of, hey, different things are going to come up, but we're going to get through them together. And I always love to start every relationship with a sit down and walk them through every single step of the process. And whether it's buying, selling, investing, developing, like I have different, basically takeaways, workbooks that I leave with the client that has everything from definitions of all of the terms that get thrown around while you're getting a mortgage or property that no one ever teaches you. I always say, I want to start like a podcast about all of the things you're supposed to know as an adult that you don't know because no one ever teaches you. It's like, what's a debt to income ratio? Like, how do I get a mortgage? What is my credit score? How do I how do I repair my credit? There's so many things that none of us know. And unfortunately, there's this preconceived notion that you're supposed to know these things. And I like to tell people, look, no one knows any of this. So no question is ever a dumb question. But let's go over every step of it together if you're okay with that. And let me explain to you how this is going to work. And obviously, there's going to be different road bumps that we encounter, whether it's an inspection negotiations or an appraisal or whatever it may be, but we're going to get through it together. And if you have an understanding of what to expect, then you have that trust. You're building that trust together that we're going to get through it and that everything happens as it should. But I believe with the educational proponent, you really, it's critical. And that goes for when you find the right property too. So making sure that they understand, doing a market analysis for your client on that property, making sure that they understand what the average annual appreciation in that area is. And if there's anything that's going to be seriously like big developments that are going to be helping the appreciation grow a lot, or if there's anything that's in the area that might be make it harder to sell down the line. These are all things that we want to point out to our clients and really just help give them as much information and education as we can so that they can then make an informed decision. Because like you said, we can't tell them what property to buy. We can't tell them what's safe and what's not safe and what schools are great and what it's like, no, but we can provide the best resources for them. So making sure that you have all of those resources ready and at your disposal to say, I can't tell you if it's a great school district, but here's greatschools.org, and you can look at all of the ratings and parent reviews, and here's the crime statistics report. You can decide if it's the right fit for your family. Again, education and information is the best thing that we can do to arm our clients for success.
That's so good.
Hope so. I'm
Go
like,
ahead.
I could talk about it for days. I get so excited, honestly.
Do you time block in your day for this type of education? Or do you just like see a class and say, oh, that looks good?
So this year, well, I like to say the last couple of years, I feel like a little bit like I was on a hamster on a wheel, just running as fast as I could, trying to like keep up with what, I don't know, because I wasn't going anywhere. But it was still, I had my best year ever last year, which was a surprise and exciting for sure. But with that, I found myself very exhausted by the end of the year. As I think most were in this industry. So last year, I would say my time blocking kind of went out the window. If my coach hears me, he'll be very mad. But one of my biggest things I'm focusing on this year is making sure that I'm following the time blocks that I set out for myself. So my team and we like to do quarterly offsites, I call them. And that's basically once a quarter, we meet for like 2 days outside of the office and we go through our calendars of, okay, what events are we doing for that quarter? What does our marketing look like for that quarter? What continuing education are we taking for that quarter? So knowing that, for example, my title company has a really good market report that they do on a certain day every month, making sure that I've got that time blocked into my calendar, making sure that I've got early in the year a contract update class booked, like I'm taking that on Thursday. So finding out where you get the best information because everyone's different in how they learn. And I think that's important to keep in mind. One of the best ways that I learn about what's going on in the mortgage industry and really understand it and be able to comprehend it in a way that I can then express it to my clients is talking to my lender. It's not even going to a class. It's saying, hey, every couple, maybe every 2 weeks, just, hey, can you give me a pulse of what's going on exactly with the 10-year treasury and inflation and all of these job reports? Like, how does this all correlate and what does it mean for our industry so that I can speak from a place that is informed? And obviously, with this being such kind of unprecedented times, I like to tell clients that, I wish I had a crystal ball. Unfortunately, I don't, but I do know really extremely educated people that have advised A, B, and C. And that is where my head is when I'm looking at properties for myself, because you always want to put yourself in your client's shoes. And I think by doing that, you're building that trust with them that this is something you wouldn't put them through, something that you wouldn't put yourself through. So yes, time blocking is absolutely huge. It's something I think we all struggle with as realtors, but one piece of advice I got from a mentor was if something is time blocked in your calendar and you so you're running late or you have to move things around, do not delete that important task. Simply move it. And if you have to move it to another day, so be it. But
Mhm.
making sure that you're not getting rid of that time block, because everything that's blocked into your calendar should be something that is absolutely critical. And we
Mhm.
don't want to delete them. We want to do it or move it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
good point.
good. So this might be our last question just due to our time here, but I wanted to piggyback on, you talked about last year being like one of your best years. I wonder if you could speak to our listeners who maybe last year was not a great year. And we know from the industry, like 2024 was one of
That's a
the
hard year.
hardest years in real estate in recent decades. So I wonder if you could speak to those listeners
Yeah,
who, last year was tough. Maybe they're starting out this year and it's really tough. Talk about how to face adversity in the industry. I mean, you have enough experience at this point where I'm sure it's been up and down.
totally.
What
And
what message do you have for those folks?
absolutely. And I always say anytime you make a plan for life, and that includes a business plan, life kind of laughs. So we have to be ready to be able to pivot. And it's not always easy. And it really is creating your toolkit of how you're going to approach adversity, whether it's in your business and your relationships with your health. Like I've really had to build up what my go-tos are for getting me through difficult times. And what I've found
Mm,
is that two main things. One, iron sharpens iron. So who are you surrounding yourself by? I can say that last year I was successful because I had incredible coaching and support and the people on my team that had my back when I was getting a plasma transfusion and couldn't show a property. Like I knew that I had incredible people around me that were there to support me and care about me unconditionally. So, in the coaching aspect, making sure that I have someone that's overlooking my business to say, Athena, these are your strengths. These are what your weaknesses that you should not be, what, you should be delegating and not spending your time on. And these are the things that you're not even thinking about that you do need to work on because we don't know our own blind spots.
mhm,
We can't adjust. But I think when things get complicated, it's really, or excuse me, when things get difficult, especially in our industry, there are so many shiny objects. It's so difficult not to chase every shiny object that we see. And there's so many ways of being successful in real estate. But the key to being successful in anything, especially in real estate, is consistency. So, what
mm,
are the activities that you love to do that you will do consistently and hold yourself accountable to? I follow what's called a greatness tracker, and it tracks every day, how many phone calls am I making? How many handwritten notes do I write? How many face-to-face interactions am I, it really helps you to build your schedule intentionally. And it really helps to take the ebbs and flows out because when you're doing these consistent, simple activities with authenticity because you enjoy doing them, it's going to pay off. And instead of trying, and I think oftentimes we try something for a month, and if it doesn't work, you're not seeing the benefit already, then we move to the next. But understanding that any endeavor, whether it's farming a neighborhood or starting to, you know, tr cold call or whatever it may be, like if doing open houses all in one area so that you can try and meet the neighborhood and throwing events in that area. It usually takes about a year before anything really starts to pay off. But the more that you can build those consistent actions into your day that are authentic to who you are and what you enjoy doing, the more successful you're going to be. And it's so hard not to want to grasp to all of the different opportunities and ideas that there are out there. But it really comes down to, okay, at the end of doing an activity, say it's cold calling, if that's what makes you feel, I do the heavy and light test. So it's like, do I feel heavy after doing that or do I feel light? Okay, I feel
Mm.
heavy. Cold calling's not for me. I'm gonna call my
Mhm.
sphere. Do I feel
Mhm.
light when I call my sphere? Yeah. So I'm gonna focus on maybe going through the alphabet of my CRM and calling through 5 to 10 people a day and just go alphabetically through your CRM and make notes and make sure that you have everyone's birthdays so you can send birthday cards. Use social media to your advantage. Find out when people's anniversaries are, or if they've had children. Like these are all things that, again, we have such access to information.
Mm.
So it's just being disciplined and consistent in doing those actions. So if you tell
Mm.
yourself, like for me, handwritten notes is my thing. I love writing people notes because I love receiving them. So when I've got everyone's birthdays in my calendar and I'm gonna write, you know you're gonna get a birthday card from me and it comes from the heart.
I
So
think you and Corey are cut
uh,
from the same cloth.
are we? I love it. And you know what? It has been one of my biggest business bringers. Like people are like, I can't believe you remember. Like, thank you so much. That means so
Yeah.
much to get a handwritten card these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
really, and
sure.
it feels good. It feels authentic to who I am. And when we're authentic in our actions, our clients can tell. When we're not authentic,
Yeah,
it feels transactional. And that is not the
that's
kind of
right.
business any of us want to
Oh my goodness. Mic
do.
drop, girlfriend. I really, really appreciate you, Athena. Thank you so much for taking the time and your crazy busy schedule. And if our listeners can look at the video on YouTube, I love your background. Like I've just been like staring at
Thank
all these
you.
things. So I love it so much. Really, really appreciate you.
Call me and I'll help you with your gallery wall for sure.
Awesome. I love it.
No, thank you, ladies, so much for having me. I absolutely love listening to your podcast. So having the
Oh, well,
opportunity to
thank
share
you.
little bits of wisdom is a blessing. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank
Awesome.
you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Momentum in Real Estate. We hope you found valuable insights and strategies to propel your real estate journey forward.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates with you. Remember, success in real estate is about continuous learning, growth, and serving others. Keep that momentum going and watch your business thrive.
Until next time, keep pushing forward and bringing your real estate dreams to life.
This is Corey Wall.
And Kristen James signing off from Momentum in Real Estate.